Oh, doesn't anymore? Oh, okay.
Turn the speaker on.
Oh, okay. Is that what it says? All right. Thank you, Chris. We're ready to go then. All right. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Committee on Administration for the County of Dunn. We are in the government building here in Menominee, Wisconsin, room 54. Our next order of business is call the roll. Let it show that at this point, the only committee member missing is Mr. Zahns. All the rest of the supervisors are here, along with staff, corp counsel, and our county manager. Approval of the minutes from our August 24th, 2023 was our last meeting. However, we did have a special meeting prior to our last county board meeting, so we'll have some additional minutes for next time. Anyone with care to make a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Bauer first, seconded by Supervisor Linnell. Any questions, comments by anyone here?
Nope.
All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes. And Mr. Zahns is here. He was waiting in the wings. All right. So all the members of the committee are present. Next is staff reports. We will hear our first report from our administration, which is our county administrator manager. Chris, would you go ahead, please?
I don't have anything, I believe, in addition to the written report. If there's any questions?
Any questions on Chris's report? Lots of activities. Busy lady, thank you. Next would be human resources. Is Jenna or one of her staff? Jenna is here. You want to do it now, or do you have some preliminary stuff and then other things later? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, we'll do it that way. Any questions for just her written report at this point? All right, you're off the hook. Thank you. Okay, next, Criminal Justice Collaboration Division. Any questions for her report? We do have later have an adjustment to make to the budget. Any questions about that? Hearing none. Anything, Sarah, you'd like to add? Go right ahead, please. We're going to hear from Sarah, our director of the CJCC division.
Good afternoon. One exciting update to my written report is that we received notification that we have a federal award for a grant for a family treatment court to enhance it. It is for $850,000 over 3 years. So we're really excited about that. So there'll be more details coming out in the future, but pretty exciting. And then I do want to make note that there is a correction that I'd like to make to the budget adjustment that's later on the agenda, and I can speak to that once we get to that point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah Benedict. I appreciate it. All right. Next is our treasurer. And she's online.
I'm online. I am. I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Any questions for our treasurer?
Good, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Supervisor Bauer.
On your long-term investments, those are all gonna be paid off at the end of the year. I see the dates are, the last one's 12/14 to 23. Is that gonna help the budget for next year then? 'Cause those will be off the record?
Well, so the investment sheet that I attach is what we have that is earning interest. So generally when those come to term, we would just roll them over to something else to earn interest unless the board recommends that we do something else with them. But that's currently what we always do. So those are CDs that we have that we just continue to roll over, especially now that the interest rate is so good.
Those are investment interest bearing accounts, not debt owed. So they will,
Correct.
the due dates show the day that they're maturing, and then we'll roll them into either another CD or another investment tool. Yeah, yeah, or those were actually really positive ones. So those were all over 4% anyway, but now we're at about 5 to 5.5%. So yeah, as we renew them, and yes, in the big picture, they do ultimately help the budget because all of that investment income goes back into our sort of in our general fund account. Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Supervisor Leno?
Yeah, I was noticing when I was looking at the numbers on there, I noticed that there was almost a $10 million change from beginning account to ending account. And I was just wondering if you could address that, please.
Yep, so we're taking in taxes during that time and paying them all out. So that includes, so those funds include August settlement. So because the county has taken in all of those funds for second installment, we then have to settle up with each municipality, pay out all of the municipalities as well as all of the school districts. So we get to hold on to that money, earn a little bit of interest on it, but eventually we do have to give it out to the municipalities.
Oh, so there was a payday, huh?
There was a payday, yep.
Okay, well, that's all. I just saw the change in the figures and I thought, better ask.
Yep, sure.
All right, thank you.
Anything?
Oh,
anything
I
else?
just have one quick thing to add. Part of the reason why Sophia is appearing remotely, so you have supported her request for a change in her deputy, her staff positions to deputy positions and adding some time to them. Part of the reason Sophia is remote is because she is the only person in her office today. So we're
Great.
lucky she's healthy and not ailing, because otherwise
There would
we'd all be there.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, good. And we'll move on. Let's see, next on our list is IT. Anything else you want to add to your? Okay, how is the transition going with our supervisors? Oh.
Yeah, so we've migrated all county employees over to Microsoft. We are still chopping away at county supervisors. Believe we have the majority, maybe 3 to 4 left. So working through, including one of them that's in here, I'm sure signed up to be here later today.
Did I?
So we're moving along on that and just getting ready in our next step. So we have to start migrating the online storage from Google Drives over to the Microsoft solution. So we have a hard deadline of January 31st to get all that done. So and we know we're making lots of change. So we're trying to be very careful about how we go about that without overwhelming people. Except for Chris, we're good overwhelming her.
Uh,
I've
Any
been the
other-
largest complainer.
That's
saying.
yeah. Anyone else?
I just wanted to let you know that I actually am bringing myself into this new venue, kicking and screaming and pulling my hair once in a while and then go, oh, that's how it's done. So there is a simplicity here that I think over time will raise its ugly head and we'll be able to, use this just as easily as we did the old system.
Yeah, we talk a lot in our office. There's about 10 ways to do everything. So when you get the question, well, how do I do that? It's like, well, I don't know which way works best for you. And that's a part of it. I can show you how I do it, but We find that with a lot of technology, there's a lot of ways to do the same thing, and that's intentional.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else? Thanks.
Mhm.
Appreciate it. All right. Last is our county clerk,
But certainly not least.
but not least.
I just have one interesting development. If you recall from the previous reports this summer, we were going to get new absentee ballot envelopes that the Wisconsin Election Commission had approved. They approved them on August 4th at their committee meeting, and all of the details and specs were sent out to printers that could produce all the absentee ballot envelopes. We ordered 25,000 of them, both interior envelopes and the exterior envelopes, to make sure that we are ready for 2024. The development today was we have received all of our absentee ballot envelopes, which is quite exciting. Yahoo, we're ready. The interesting development today, though, was Bear Graphics, who is our printer traditionally for most of the things that we do. This is going to be hard to see, but this is what the Wisconsin Election Commission approved. So for the witness signature part at the very bottom, it says the witness signature, witness's printed name, witness's address, number, street name, city. What Bear Graphics did was put number, street name, city, state, and zip code. The Wisconsin Election Commission is saying that was not what was approved. Your all envelopes will not be valid for the election. So we're going to be in a little d'état right now with Bear Graphics. Bear Graphics is saying, well, I did it because there's some pending litigation about these specific envelopes. And so Dennis is saying he did it to try to be on top of the litigation that he thinks is going to be successful, in that we're going to have to add the state and the zip code in the witness signature section. So that's neat. I just wanted you to be aware of it because it most likely will be coming up. There's an uproar of 1,800 municipal clerks and 72 county clerks across the state of Wisconsin right now on this particular topic. He just did it because he thought it would be helpful, and now all of our envelopes might be void. We did get a $4,700 grant from the Wisconsin Election Commission for purchasing these envelopes. And he's saying he doesn't anticipate right now that he will be doing a reprint, that you would have to get them printed somewhere else because he will only print them this way. If that's the case, Dunn County will no longer be doing any work with Bear Graphics going forward. So it's just a development that happened today. That was fun. Just wanted you to be aware of it. It's never dull with election stuff. So any questions on that? Or I guess just the regular report, since I'm up here for the.
Okay, or, great, go ahead, Mr. Zell.
What can you do with all of those envelopes?
Have a
Can
big
they be like
bonfire.
made into maybe a shelter for people or something?
If I had the skills and abilities, Supervisor Zons, I would definitely figure something out
Okay.
to do with that. We're going to be kind of in limbo. I'm certainly not going to shred them at this point. If there is some compromise and they say, well, okay, just cross that section out. If you recall, there have been several changes to the tenure in which a person had to live in the state of Wisconsin at their address before they could be registered to vote and receive an absentee ballot. So it used to be, it was 45 days and it was 30 days and it was 10 days and it's back to 35 days. So what the Wisconsin Election Commission did previously was said, okay, you can put a sticker on with the new number of days that you had to live there. Or you could cross it out and put in, just handwrite that. It doesn't really feel very official, but we've been doing that for several of the old envelopes. My predecessor, Julie, had received some COVID funds during 2020 to order 75,000 absentee ballot envelopes. So we've just been trying to use those up, and most of them just get crossed out or have a sticker on them. So there might be some use for them. We don't know yet. It's just very early. This was just all discovered this morning at about 10 a.m. So yeah, never dull.
One quick question here, if I may.
Yep.
All right.
Supervisor.
Andrew, what, are there some restrictions that a witness needs to be a Wisconsin resident or not?
No, no.
Okay,
That's part of the current litigation, right? So Wisconsin Election Commission said all you need to have is the witness signature, their printed name, and then the number, street name, and the city. in theory, that would be like if you were getting your absentee ballot envelope because you were a snowbird in Sarasota,
Yeah.
you would assume that the person who's witnessing is your neighbor or something like that in Sarasota. It doesn't have the state, it doesn't have the zip code. So what Bear Graphics did was, well, we want to be more thorough than what's the bare minimum. So we want to do this extra step. And the Wisconsin Election Commission is saying, well, you don't need that extra step per the Wisconsin state statutes. So
Let me ask you this, is if somebody, or if a witness does, fill out their address like they always do.
Yeah.
Address, state, zip, would it be voided?
no, it would still be accepted.
Okay.
I mean,
all right.
I think what the Wisconsin Election Commission is saying is a witness can add additional information. We just aren't required to ask it. Right. It's all these like nitty gritty points where we're fighting about it right now. So,
Okay, good luck with that litigation.
yeah. Any other questions? All right. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Appreciate it, Andrew. And good luck on behalf of all of us. All right. That ends our reporting departments that report to us. Next item on our agenda are consideration for actions that we need to take by this committee today. First is review the vouchers from 8/17 to 9/18 of 2023. Are there any vouchers that are in question that need to be addressed?
So before you do that, let me tell you the answers to last month's questions.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so there was a question raised about a bill to Ross Nelson, or payment to Ross Nelson. Ross Nelson is a proprietor of Nelson Refrigeration, who did some work at the Neighbors of Dunn County for facilities in the amount of $3,016. And then there was a $10,000+ bill at Northtown Ford. It was for putting a new engine in a 2019 F-150 that hit 82,000 miles on it. And then lastly, there were, on the Sheriff's Department patrol, there were 2 charges for intoximeters, $1,930 and $890, that actually purchased 6 new intoximeters, breathalyzers, and some extra part that one of them needed. Or a mouth guard or something, I don't know, some random thing that went with them.
Thank you much. Appreciate the answers, Chris. Anyone with questions today?
Mr. Chair,
Okay, Mr. Zahn?
No.
Oh,
Just waiting
okay.
For Tim.
Oh, okay.
Basically in section 1110.
Put your mic on.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
In section 1110, I was just looking at all the different drug testing, and I see quite a variation in cost. And, when you go to the doctor's office and you get your blood drawn, it's essentially that $400 or whatever, and, that's what it is for XYZ person. And I'm just kind of wondering, I saw a variation here between $475 to $755. And then there was some testing done between $15 and $50. And I'm kind of wondering, the cost is all over the place. What's the reason?
So there is an answer, and Sarah Benedict is going to come and tell it to you.
Okay.
Well, I've been waiting for this question, so.
Oh.
So in
Softball, here you go.
a lot of our programs, the cornerstone is drug testing, the criminal justice program. So depending on risk level and the program they're in, there's a different amount of drug testing that goes on. So for a treatment court, family treatment court, they're tested 2 to 3 times per week. Typically, that's $25 a test, and it's an observed test. We have that done at a facility. If it's on the weekend, it's a $40 test that we pay. So the bills, some of the programs, we get a bill for every week of people coming in. Sometimes it's a month. Some of the drug testing charges, like the $15, that's if we're sending it in to be confirmed for drugs or alcohol in that. It's a $15 fee to send it into the lab to have them do the analysis of it. So some of those things are drug supplies or the lab costs, and then some are actually the tests for the various programs that we administer. When we're talking about like treatment court, family treatment court, that's one of the largest expenses that we have are those drug testing. But that's a measure that people are complying with their treatment plan, that it's a measurable point that we can see that they're doing well, at least abstaining from drugs or alcohol.
All right. So when I see this, approximately $500, it could be for 2 weeks time period or a
That's
month's
correct.
worth, not just one individual for that cost.
No, that is for that program batch of people for that billing period. So, so if it's 500, it's probably a week testing for 19 people in our adult court.
Okay. All right. Well, that certainly is plausible. All
right.
right. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I have one more.
Okay.
This is, oops, I didn't put it out here. One more. This is for $1,410. This is for grounds. $5,000 for garbage pickup through GFL.
GFL is a professional garbage pickup company that serves, I know, a good portion of Dunn County.
Green for life.
What did it used to be?
Veolia maybe recently, Veolia. And then they also have purchased Menominee Disposal and I don't know who. Maybe. I don't know. They've been a number of things, but now they are currently GFL, Green for Life.
And I believe they pick up at all the parks in the county. Is that?
That would be my guess, but
I'm not sure, but I know that we have a contract with them.
This was, this particular charge I saw, it was in regards to fair administration.
oh, sure.
And, I kind of thought, okay, a lot of garbage with fair and that type of thing. But $5,000? That just seemed a little steep for if it's just, 3-4 days.
Probably a number of dumpsters,
Yeah.
especially around the animal buildings and so forth.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
I mean,
it just
but-
caught my eye.
But we can get it. We'll get
Okay,
an
we
answer.
can see a little breakdown on that.
Yeah.
That'd be great. That's it then.
All right,
I-
Mr. Bauer.
I do have one or two here. On the patrol, it's almost like the same kind of question on clothing and uniforms. They got 5 or 6 different, let's see, they got Nedell Edwards Agriculture Sales, Uniform Shop of Green Bay, Amazon, Galls and Stretchers for clothing and uniforms. We got so many different ones. And all different pricing.
So I believe we've asked this question before, and I will double check it, but I believe that the answer is that there are a number of vendors that people can choose from for their items, just like you might like Levi's and the next person might fit better in whatever, Lee jeans or whatever. I believe that there are a number of vendors, but I'll double check.
I was thinking that, for a patrol, they all had the same uniform. I mean, that's just what I was looking at, I guess, so.
I'll double check.
Also on, 1410 on the, fairground administration, we really are okay in a bunch of stuff that we wouldn't even know what it is. I mean, it's premium expenses is all it says, and then it's, 2 pages worth.
So those are actually literally
Awards.
the premiums, the awards that people
Oh, the
receive for,
awards.
they
It just
receive.
says- Yeah.
Yep, they're called premiums.
Could they
You
just put
receive
it
a
on one
premium.
line item and just do one?
No, because they all went out individually.
I suppose, okay.
One of the other, one of the other issues we have with that is a lot of these checks that don't get cashed are these, because people save the check and keep it with their blue ribbon. Right there's the guilty party. All right. So that's another part of this that'll come up later. Thank you, though, for the question. That's a good one. Anything else? All right. Very good. A motion then to accept the vouchers for those dates. Again, 8/17/23 to 9/18 of 2030.
Motion.
So moved.
Mr. Zons, Mr. Now have the motion in the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. A health insurance structure and premium contribution rates. And this is a presentation by our HR. Jenna, are you doing that for us? Okay. Jenna Nutter will be presenting the information for us.
Okay. Good way to start out, huh? All right, so it's that time of year again for us to kind of share some information on how our health plan has done so far this year and what our recommendations will be for 2024. Why does that keep happening, Dan? I muted and then it goes back. It wants me to have a speaker. Okay. So just to provide kind of a rundown of what I will be covering today as part of this presentation, I will start by giving an update on the health insurance fund balance, which you would have heard about last week as part of the full audit report. I will also give a recap of the cost containment strategies that we have implemented in the last couple of years. We'll go over our current plan design and any proposed plan changes for 2024, as well as rate structures. And then I will also introduce our new benefits consultant, which one of them is here today. And then I had handed out a list of care navigation incentives. So we'll go over those a little bit later. And then I will ask for action from the committee. So again, just kind of wanted to start by giving a recap of the items that we have implemented starting in 2022. The first one being a relationship with a direct primary care clinic, and that is with Reform Medicine. We were able to estimate in 2022 that we had about $361,925 in savings by having that relationship. The next piece was our care navigation service through Aletheus. With that, the estimated savings was $137,913. And then we also have our pharmacy benefit manager, ScoutRx, with an anticipated savings of $644,000 for an estimated total of about $1.1 million in 2022. All right, so on this slide, you have the last 7 years of our recorded health fund balance. So you had heard from our financial auditor last week that there was about 1.6 million returned to our health insurance fund balance after 2022. So currently that balance sits at 3,277,655. And this is considered a healthy level per consultant recommendations. My understanding is it is a really good idea to have at least 1/4 of expected claims within a reserve fund. So we are in a good place as far as our safety net for our health plan. And that's good news. Any questions on that?
Mr. Chair, if I might. If we're sitting on 3.2 or $3.3 million, is that just what's in the checkbook, or is this money that's really kind of sitting in reserve that maybe should be in some type of short-term savings accounts or CDs or something like that? Is there some management of those funds that way?
It is sitting in those big numbers that you see on that investment page.
Yeah,
It is part of those numbers. So it's all sitting and earning interest.
so that's part of our 6 million that we've got sit away, or?
It's assigned funds, so
Yeah,
Leave it
they all
there.
sort of roll up to be together. So I can't say that that specifically is there, but they're all earning. The actual long-term investments, that $6 million piece, those are actually our like, we're saying we're not going to need those for a while. We
Okay.
can have them if we need them, but we're saying we don't think we're going to need them. The money, like the health insurance money, is sitting more in some of those more flexible spending, but even in our local government investment pool money,
Mhm.
that's still earning over 5% interest right now.
Okay, so we are creating income from this, but the money is available to us in case we have, a spike in costs.
yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure.
Okay, so before I throw our proposed changes at you for 2024, just wanted to kind of give a rundown of our current plans. So we currently have what we consider 2 plan options. The first plan option is on the top, and for a single person, it is currently a $2,500 deductible. For a family, it is a $5,000 deductible. And you can also see there in parentheses that there are maximum out-of-pocket rates. So that's $4,000 for an individual and $8,000 for a family. Our second plan option is currently including a $5,000 deductible for a single person and a $10,000 deductible for a family. And the max out-of-pockets sit at $7,500 and $15,000. You can see by looking at the employee and county contribution rates that for selecting that second option, that higher deductible, that's a higher risk plan, the premiums are much lower for that plan option. And both plan options have what's called a coinsurance that would pay 80% of claims that are incurred after someone hits their deductible. So that's how someone would reach that maximum out-of-pocket rate. Any questions on how they're currently structured?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I was always under the impression that an HSA account would not have these coinsurance. And so this coinsurance that you're talking about, is that just for medications? Is it for all services rendered under the plan?
I don't, I mean, I might need to phone a friend on this one, but you might be thinking of copays. I think it's more common for a plan that has more of a copay structure to not be HSA eligible.
Yeah, that's kind of my
Mhm.
thought on
And
that.
that is different from coinsurance, and that coinsurance is basically the county pays 80% of a claim after someone hits their deductible already, the county pays 80% and the employee still pays 20% until they
And
reach the max out of pocket. I think a copay structure is more like if you go for a visit, an employee might pay $30 copay
Yeah.
per visit.
okay,
That's a little bit different than the
okay.
coinsurance.
So this, is there any point in this plan where that copay drops off or when the deductible is met?
When the maximum out of pocket is met,
Okay,
then the claims, if they're in network and covered, would be paid at 100% once a
okay.
maximum out of pocket is reached.
And
So,
then co-insurance wouldn't apply after that.
correct.
Okay,
Yeah. So the full exposure on a family plan, so our option one plan that is the most common because it's not as high of a risk as that second option. Families full exposure would be $8,000 in a year.
So
Thank
if I'm reading that correctly, then up to $5,000, the family's gonna pay. And then between $5,000 and $8,000 out of pocket, that would accrue over at a 80-20 rate.
Yep, per
Okay.
claim.
Okay.
The family would continue to pay 20% until they hit that 8,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. So we've gone over what they currently are. And now I kind of want to just walk through what we are proposing for changes for next year. On that first plan option for an individual, we are proposing to decrease that maximum out of pocket from 4,000 to 3,500. Did I do something wrong? And then for the family plan, we are looking at dropping the max out of pocket from 8,000 to 7,000. And this was really because we felt 8,000 is still a really big number for a family in 1 year. And we, really wanted to do our best to make that more affordable. And we are also proposing changes to our second plan option, that those higher deductible plans, because currently, as it is now, it's a little bit extreme, we felt. There is a large margin of difference between those selecting that top plan option and the bottom. You could understand why, because it is, that bottom plan is really a pretty high risk. So we are looking at decreasing those deductibles for a single from 5,000 to 3,500. And also the maximum out of pocket from 7,500 to 5,000 for an individual. Dropping the family deductible from 10,000 to 7,000. And decreasing the maximum out of pocket from 15,000 to 10,000. Our goal in this is to make that second plan option a little bit more reasonable, to get people thinking about it if, they're in a situation where they aren't anticipating the need for a lot of medical procedures and whatnot. This might be a plan that they choose and would allow the plan to stay healthier if they're taking on a little bit more of that risk.
Jenna, can I just pop in to say that if you recall, we've gone through some of these, Jenna's gone through some of these numbers with you before, and we've really targeted that maximum out of pocket because 2 years ago, our maximum out of pocket on the higher premium plan, the lower numbers there on the top, our maximum out of pocket for a family was 12,000. We dropped it to 8 for this year, and now we're able to take it to 7, or proposing to take it to 7 for this next year. So again, understanding that $10,000 and $12,000, unless you elect into that, is a lot of money for a family.
I guess my first question is for the long term, and I know you can't, I'm not asking you to look down the road, 5 years from now, but at least the next 2 or 3 years, does it look like these numbers are going to be sustainable? Okay. I just hate to, get us to the point where we're borrowing from funds again, and then we got to go back to like $12,000. I mean, I just see that a big exodus of our good employees if we jump around.
Yeah, so I'll jump to the next slide, which is the premium allocation slide. And there was a lot of thought and fancy math put into this, in part from our or benefits consultant. Um, they were able to kind of take into account our claims history, any estimated healthcare inflation rates and things like that. And they were able to assure us that we are able to make these enhancements to the plan options, um, dropping these deductibles and max out of pockets without needing to raise our premium cost. So they are saying, you know, of course, health insurance is a little bit like gambling. You never know what's going to happen, but we feel confident that this premium funding structure can sustain those plan designs.
How, I don't know if you've had a chance to do it yet or if they have for you, but how are we comparable to other counties, municipality, bigger municipality units? Is this kind of put us at least in the middle or are we looking pretty good in comparison?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think there's kind of two different things to compare there. There's the premium rates, and we are in a competitive place with our premiums, but those deductibles and max out of pockets are a bit of a stretch. And we, that has often been a topic of discussion when we are trying to recruit new employees. With that being said, the market right now is, most organizations, I'm hearing a lot of other counties are seeing upwards of a 30% jump in premium rates for next year. So as far as our competition looking into next year, I think we're in a really good place there too.
Thank you.
One question if I may.
Supervisor, no, yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Jenna, I was just kind of looking, kind of a point of order on this, family deductible.
Mhm.
Now, when we're talking about the entire family, or is it $7,000 deductible per unit in that family?
So our deductibles are embedded, meaning that each individual will hit their deductible before the overall family deductible is hit. So I'm giving you an example.
Okay.
And I'm going to use the high plan because that's an easier example. $7,000 family deductible, but each individual would hit their deductible at $3,500. And then that's when the max out of pocket starts kicking in just for their claims.
Okay.
But then with the family as a whole, let's say they have like 6 children, the deductible overall would kick in at 7,000. If that's a mixture of claims, they would get there with that. Or if they have only one person consuming healthcare that year, that one individual is going to hit the deductible at 3,500.
Okay. And then the
And then
co-insurance.
other members would still have that deductible to meet. Co-insurance would come into play
Okay.
with that single max
So
out of pocket. So it was kind of confusing, but
in a 6-person program, it would be potentially 6 $3,500 deductibles.
no, really, it'd only be a max of 2 because
Okay, to
there's
reach
still
that
that
seven.
$7,000 family
Okay.
overall aggregate cap
Okay.
for the deductible, and then they have the max out of pocket, of course. But
Is there a limit? I've seen some plans where when 2 deductibles are met within the family, there is no deductible for the rest of the family. So you got 6 kids again, and the 7,000 is hit. Is there a deductible required for the remaining 4 children?
there wouldn't be if they've already hit their $7,000 max
Total family.
or $7,000 family deductible,
Okay.
but the co-insurance would still apply until they reach their overall max out of pocket.
Okay. All right. All right.
Mhm.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
I say that the higher plan is easier to provide an example for because the IRS makes things a little bit difficult, so bear with me. Um, on this lower plan, we have a $5,000 family deductible, and we also have an embedded deductible with that. However, we are not able to, in order to keep the plan HSA eligible, each individual has to hit at least $3,200 instead of that 2,500. That's too low. So they need to reach 3,200 for next year before the individual will hit their deductible within that family plan. And
This makes my head hurt.
yeah, I'm happy to try and talk through it more, but that's basically because the HSA eligibility says for next year that a family plan can't be any lower than $3,200. Otherwise, it won't be HSA
Also,
eligible.
that's a
So if we
federal
have
limit.
it as embedded,
Okay.
we need to keep that constant. So that plan's a little trickier because we're not saying your embedded deductible is the 2,500, and that's only because of, well, let's blame the IRS, right? So I just wanted to try and make that distinction.
All right. Thanks, Jenny. You helped that quite a bit.
There are about 300 million if-thens, but simplistically, if you think about your maximum out of pocket exactly as it says, for a family, what is the total amount that they would have to pay under the worst case scenario for care for their family in these particular situations? In the higher deductible plan, it would be $10,000. So that kind of, if everything went wrong and everybody had to go to the doctor to the fullest extent of what was necessary, they would, at $10,000, they would be capped. And on the lower plan, at $7,000, they would be capped. And then the deductible is sort of on the other side. How much services do they need to receive before the insurance starts to kick in? It's not totally true because preventative care is covered 100% from the get-go. But for other kinds of illnesses and things, then if you think about the deductible as sort of the other side. So one side is how much would we have, how much would we absolutely have to pay? And the other one is how much do we have to pay before our insurance starts to pay?
One more, if I may. If, if they don't have a dental program paying for dental, is that eligible?
I do not believe basic dental care is included, but maybe some oral surgeries
surgery
if
might
it's
be.
considered medical, but that would be a case by case basis.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Yep.
Again, all those ifs and whats. Okay.
Yeah. So again, we had included in the first draft of the 2024 budget that there would be a 0% change in premiums. And we are pretty ecstatic that we're able to hold true with that. So no anticipated need to change premiums. And we are asking to maintain the current cost structure as it currently is. So you can see here, and as of this year, how each plan is kind of divvied out. So on that single plan, and the employee pays 8% of the total premium, county pays 92%, and then you can kind of see it go down 6% for the family plan. And then 5% for the employee on that single higher plan, and 4% for a family on the highest plan option. Any questions on the allocations?
I have one question, if I may.
Please, go ahead.
So these are all the premiums, comes out of their paycheck, their portion, that type of thing. Does the county put anything into the individual's HSA account?
Yes. So we do have an HSA incentive structure that I did provide more detail in the written report. And I do also apologize that came to you Tuesday, I believe, which allows family plans to earn up to $1,500 to be contributed to their HSA. And we aren't proposing to make any changes to that for 2024.
Is that something that the $1,500 is contributed at the first of the year? Or is this something that's paid over time?
They have to earn it by either attending a preventive exam, and then there's a step 2 to it, where they can fulfill 5 items out of 15 that are all related to different various
I think I read
versions of
something in your
wellness.
report on that. Okay,
Yes,
okay, so
Mhm.
that's the hoops they have to jump through to get this 1,500.
correct.
And then what is the figure for single? 750 or?
750 for a
Okay,
single.
all
Yep.
right.
The only change that we are making for that program is, so right now, it does not allow employees that are on a family plan that don't have a covered spouse. So if it's just an employee and their children,
Mhm.
it doesn't allow them to earn that full $1,500. So we are making changes for next year to allow, um, you know, if it's a single parent household with a family plan to earn that full amount, because they're still paying the family premium, they're still paying the family deductible, family max out of pocket, and things like that. So we'll be keeping the HSA incentive structure the same, and the only change would be the eligibility of those single parent households or the plans where the spouse is on a different employer's plan or something like that.
And so as we look at, going down the road here, this $1,500, and look at it after January 1 or into 24, then in that situation, another 1,500 or whatever may be decided at that particular time would be then again eligible for these people if they jump through the proper hoops.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, that is something that we are able to fund through our current premium structure. We're able to sustain those costs. We've been able to do that. We were able to do that in 2022. We're able to do that so far in 2023. So we are not asking for additional funds to cover that. The first year we did, if you recall, there was an approval to transfer $1 million from the workers' comp fund. I don't want to get too off track here, but I think it is important to note. So we had 1.6 returned after 2022. Technically, 1 million of that was the transfer from workers' comp. So we didn't even need that transfer in order to fund reform membership and all of the other things that we implemented because the utilization was so well in the first year. And that's not usually the case. It usually takes a few years to get everything beefed up enough and working well to really see the savings. But I think that's proof that it worked well within the first year and we expect it to continue to get better. You're welcome. Okay, so next I want to take the time to introduce our new benefits consultant. So I've shared with you that we started working with the Insurance Center as of July this year. And we have here with us Brandon from the Insurance Center, and I'll have him introduce himself. We also work with Garrett, who's not here today, but he's on the phone with us a lot. And I will ask Brandon to kind of talk a little bit about their ticket health solution, which we will be embracing for 2024.
Thanks, and nice to meet you folks. I feel like I'm up here after the Packers win tonight on the press conference. So sorry for all of you Detroit Lions fans out there. But anyways, nice to meet you again. Brandon Monlock from the Insurance Center. I'm out of Eau Claire, but originally from Menominee, so you might know the last name. But anyways, yeah, so we've been working with Dunn County since about July or so. Been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And like Jenna said, so what we're proposing is our ticket health solution. Essentially what it is, it's a cooperative model that brings together like-minded employers, like-minded counties, school districts, all the likes into a model that essentially helps to reduce volatility and spend over a 5 to 10 year period when it comes to your healthcare. And essentially what that does is we've vetted all of our partners behind the scenes. So we have transparent partners, you know exactly what you're getting, exactly what you're paying. And you also get all of your refunds back, everything else that you should as a county. So we feel like there could be a decent amount of savings by going to that. And we've seen success with that with other counties throughout the state of Wisconsin, other businesses that we work with as well. We've got over 50 different employers and counties and schools now that are within our cooperative throughout the state of Wisconsin, and that continues to grow annually. And it's just something where, again, we've really done a lot of behind the scenes legwork to make sure that all of our partners are transparent, and everybody's also getting a good front facing experience from the member standpoint as well. So we feel it will be a good transition and a smooth transition and all positive things going forward for Dunn County for these changes. So any questions for me or anything I can help to answer while I'm up here?
Brandon, what is
Yeah.
your total? I'm just looking, some of the explanation up there, but are you, I guess, what all are you replacing over what we've had in the past in terms of that support?
Yeah, so just as far as your current solution that you guys are working with, so the proposal would really be, it'd still be a self-funded model, just like you have been.
Yep.
And it sounds like you've been self-funded since 1985, since the Bears were good. So it's been a while. But essentially, our program would be replacing all the partners in your current solution. But again, the ones that we've vetted and just kind of doing the legwork on to see some of the savings in there could be pretty significant even in the first year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right ahead.
So one of the changes will be our third-party administrator. So right now that's Prairie States, right? They process our claims. That's where, that's what the card says when the employee brings it to the doctor.
Okay.
So that will change to Allegiance for next year. And one of the things, like Brandon had said, they've done a lot of digging into our current relationships and contracts. And with this change, we are able to make sure that all costs are transparent and that, we're paying for the administration of the plan and the services and nothing else. So even though I've shared good news and we've made really good changes, it doesn't stop there. We're always striving for, the best possible savings for our health plans. And they've been a great partner in helping us do that the last couple of months. So we feel good about the changes. That also would include a change in the pharmacy benefit manager from Scout RX. And then the provider right now is Proact. And that would change to Navitus. And with that, it would change the fact, like he had said earlier, we would be able to receive the full extent of our savings and also more thoroughly receive rebates and things of that nature. So we believe much more room for success in changing those partnerships as part of their solution. Anything to add?
I don't think so. I'm excited to work with you folks. So.
Thank you. Any other questions? Tim?
Tim, yeah, I'm a little leery. We saved a ton of money on Scout RX. I mean, a bunch compared to what we were paying. And so I'm gonna look at Brandon real close in the eye. You're gonna save us the same kind of money this coming year?
Yeah.
So our contract with Scout, which, yes, they do source prescriptions from various areas in order to find the best savings.
Mhm.
But they also keep 25% of what the plan saves. So
Okay.
you saw that big number. We paid them 25% of basically the assumed savings of each prescription. So with Navitus, that's not something that we have to do. We get to keep our savings.
Oh,
And there's no guarantee on, we will keep you informed and up to date as much as you desire as
Okay.
far as pharmacy spend goes into next year. But that was one of the major reasons for making the change to Allegiance.
the 25% is a big deal. Exactly. I have one question for Brandon. A captive participation Pareto, what in the heck is that?
Yeah, so, and we'll get into more of that too, but essentially by joining into our captive that we work with, so we work with the largest captive in the country. It's got over approaching 2,300 members now throughout the entire country. And what it does, it allows you to join together to get the best stop loss contracts possible. If you look at it from the purchasing standpoint of how much funds the Pareto captive actually has, it's got over, well, 1.5 billion, somewhere in that range. So if you looked at them as just a stop loss, right, they actually are in the top 3 for size wise. But what it allows you to do is it allows for rate caps on our stop loss. So your annual renewals are capped at a certain rate, which is lower than what your cap is right now. And it also allows for no new lasers. So not to get too deep into this, but essentially by going onto the program, right, you would not have a new, if you had somebody that was unhealthy right now, your stop loss could put something that's called a laser on it. Familiar with a laser at all? So a laser is essentially, let's just
research.
yeah, right. Let's just say, for example, so in the world of stop loss insurance, right? You're running well, all of a sudden there's a person that comes onto the plan that has a serious cancer, and it's going to be an ongoing continued cost of $300,000 a year, right? So essentially what a stop loss contract can do can say, hey, now we see this person's on your plan, we're going to add a laser to that one person. And it could essentially be an extra 100,000, 150,000, whatever that number is, before we're going to start to cover this one person on the plan.
Well, you're not limiting coverage to a person who's ill, are you, or no?
You're not limiting coverage, but essentially that stop loss contract behind the scenes can say, hey, we're putting a specific amount on this one person, right? And
Okay.
so we're going to cover it as a stop loss. So the county would have to pay the extra $150,000 on that one person.
Okay.
That's the fun world of stop loss insurance. I'm sorry
Okay,
to bring that up.
So you guys are gonna eat that 150 or we?
That would be on the county if that was the contract.
Okay.
What
all
I'm
right.
saying is by joining into this captive, once you're in the captive, there's a no new lasers contract that they have from year to year, meaning that you do if you do have that person that comes onto your plan, that's a very high cost claimant. The stop loss can never put a laser onto that person.
Okay, that's clear as mud, but.
Brandon, is it fair to say a captive is kind of like a cooperative?
Yes.
It
Yep.
basically everyone's paying in and then it's paying out as needed. So maybe this year, if Nick and I are in together, maybe this year, Nick puts in 100,000 and I put 100,000, but Nick takes out 125 and I take out 50. Because,
Okay.
and then maybe next year I have a bad year and I take out more and Nick takes out less. So it's balancing out that draw.
So that this is the cooperative of the other 23 people that are involved with us then at this stand.
Mhm.
Am I understanding?
2,300, right?
Yeah,
Is that what you said?
2,300. Yep.
Okay,
Yes. Yeah. So again, it's really allowing, what's that?
Just for stop loss.
Yeah, it's just for stop loss. It's yeah.
okay, but just the stop loss part of it.
Yep.
right?
Yeah. And I mean, that makes up roughly a third or more of your overall health cost, right? Your
Mhm.
stop loss. So it's a big piece of it. But again, it's adding in those extra protections so that, again, looking from a 5 to 10 year standpoint instead of year to year of making sure that you're in a good place.
So if
Thank
I
you.
understand it right, it's not just for that year, but it would be ongoing. And then so if you picked up a second person or a third person after this initial policy date,
Mhm.
they will all come on board at that type of a situation.
Yeah. So as long as you're in with the captive, there can never be there can never be a new laser put on your plan. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hopefully I didn't muddy the
Nope,
waters too
nope,
much
that-
there.
I'd be happy to share more in-depth information on captives at a future meeting if you would really like. It could take a full hour. But it basically helps us to mitigate our risk for the long term. Mhm. All right, thanks, Brandon.
Okay,
Great. And the last main piece of that ticket health solution includes care navigation, which we already have. So that's really not a steep hill to climb for us. The only change is that the ticket health solution processes incentives that go along with use of the care navigation tool. So that handout that I provided you is a list of, they call it the Money 30, different procedures that would be planned procedures that an employee could contact Alethius for, and they would help them shop for the best value option. And this is something that we had talked about a few meetings ago, kind of just introducing this idea. So like I said, we work with Alethius already. We don't currently have an incentive structure associated with that. Our utilization is sitting under 50%. So we expect to put some incentives behind this solution would greatly increase our utilization and further earn more savings for the plan. So you can kind of see there, it varies from about 1% to 5%, but if an employee follows through with going to the best value, they will get between 1 and 5% of an incentive of that total savings that the plan receives. They get 1 to 5% of that as a lump sum incentive payment. So it's a very small piece of what the plan is saving. So we don't actually need to budget additional dollars for this. And again, looking to boost that utilization rate. It is a few extra steps for the employee and potentially could add miles to their trip if they, decide that they want to, or that they're willing to drive 100 miles to go to the best value provider. So it'll help them pay for gas or a hotel and things of that nature. So we are excited to add the incentive structure as part of the ticket health solution. And we think that that will boost our participation. So I have a whole slide here on kind of how it works. If you're interested, I can walk you through an example. All right. So step one, the employee has been notified that they are in need of a specialist or a certain imaging procedure that's included on that Money 30 list. So they're notified by their primary doctor that they need that. So step two, the employee will call Alethius for assistance in finding the best value provider options for that procedure within the mile radius that they choose. So we're not requiring them to drive 200 miles. They're able to communicate how far they're willing and able to go. So then after that, the employee's provider will send a copy of the order to Alethius so they can review like what's actually needed, because sometimes there's MRIs with contrast, without. So it's all information that's better to come directly from the provider. And then after that, Alethius will do the homework and provide a list of best value providers within the employee's selected mile radius to the employee. So the employee will receive a list of their options. And then we'll kind of take a look, if they have a certain preference, they will make a selection based on that list. Again, it's a best value provider. And then the employee, will submit a survey once they've made that selection to certify that they've followed through. And then we will receive a report from Alethius or from Ticket Health telling us who followed through on the care navigation, and then we would process the incentive amount. Any questions about how that would work?
On the sheet here, you've got on the left side procedures, Mayo Complex Care Program for Complex Diagnosis Procedure. Is this their rates or is this is what our place?
On the the high cost column?
It says procedures and then it says low cost, high cost.
Okay.
But what is the Mayo Complex Care Program?
Yeah, so I can weigh in on that if you want.
Okay,
You want me to get up on the mic?
sure, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So So on this sheet, right, on the low cost, high cost portion, it's kind of telling you in the Midwest an estimate of what the lowest cost is for whatever that procedure is listed there versus what the highest is, right? So good example in our area, you might pay $8,000 at a certain hospital, I won't name names, for an MRI, right? And I've seen that all the time. You could go to a standalone imaging center, which there's several around us now, for about $650, right? So essentially what we're saying is, hey, you as the employee of Dunn County, if you're willing to call into this number and go to this same place for an MRI that does thousands of MRIs a year to save the county essentially, $7,000-8,000, we're going to offset that by paying you a little bit of an incentive to do so. Right. So that's kind of the goal, is to lower healthcare costs throughout the year by that. We're not saying you have to go do it there. We're just saying that, hey, if you're willing to go here and do this procedure, you can get the cost offset.
And part of our goal also is to educate, because it's not just the saving the plan the money, it's really saving the employee. So if I have a $3,500 deductible and I'm gonna go to get a $750 MRI versus an $8,000 MRI, I'm going to pay out $750 for my deductible versus capping my whole deductible and my 20%, then paying my 20% coinsurance. So part of our goal over the next year is really, and this was part of the work that we hope to do with the insurance center, as well as with our with an engagement wellness coordinator, is really help people understand that it's not just about saving the county or the plan money. It's really about how they can maximize their own savings in healthcare.
It also helps, right, with future renewals when we're looking at the overall spend to hopefully level out premiums over time. And it's just about educating employees and thinking about and approaching our healthcare differently, because we're also used to just, hey, I got this thing I need to do, I'm going to go to the doctor right away. But there's actually about 60% of healthcare that's non-emergent and shoppable. So that's what we're trying to get people to do, is just think a little differently. Yes, sir.
One question, who gets the incentive? How is it paid to the employee? I mean, we just got them a check?
Yeah, it's through what's that? Yeah, through payroll.
Okay, so it's not a contribution to the HSA, or do they have that as an option? No, they do not. All right.
I don't know that there are specific regulations from the IRS yet on this specifically.
Okay.
But we would not be able to process them as pre-tax. This would have to be post-tax dollars. Otherwise, we would impact HSA eligibility of our plan options, and
That would be
that
pretty
could be a
sweet if you could
problem.
put it in there.
Yeah, it would.
Also, just to follow up on the Mayo Complex Care program. So you can see on there, it says cancer, neck, back and spine, transplants, etc. So Mayo actually has a division in their Rochester department. That's their complex care unit. So, and I actually went and toured it last year. It's pretty incredible. Talk about a person giving a transplant and then coming and have a meeting and got to do another one in 20 minutes, right? Makes you think you're not doing too much with your life. But anyways, that is for those real specific situations that come up. So the Mayo Complex Care Unit, the doctors that are on staff there, they're paid a base salary. So they're not incentivized to, especially when it comes to back surgeries, they're not incentivized to do the surgeries. They're incentivized to find a different route to try to find treatment. And actually Walmart, for example, sends all of their neck and spine issue patients to Rochester to have that done with their Mayo Complex Care Unit. And it's about 80% of the time that they come up with a different treatment than actual back surgery or neck surgery. So you can imagine the amount of savings that goes along with that can be tremendous. And they're also obviously, the more complex type of healthcare things that come up, diseases and infections and stuff like that, transplants, obviously, they're able to do that there. And obviously they're incentivized to not have those procedures or things done too, because they're paid up front, not by the surgery.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps to answer
Yep.
that question.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, so next I just kind of wanted to provide a snapshot of where we've been sitting for our cost per employee per month throughout the last several years. And you can see that, well, 2020 was not a great year. But we are, as of 2022, kind of starting to drop that number. And then the estimated number, so right, we're not done with the year yet. The estimated number is that we will end the year at about $1,675 per employee per month. And this matters because it's often used as a benchmark for insurance costs to be able to see kind of where we're sitting with others. And I just wanted to provide kind of a picture of where we're at. And then also some data that was provided by Ticket Health in comparison to national averages as well as the Midwest region. So the average per employee per month spend with Ticket Health members is sitting at just over 1,000 per employee per month. So we still have, our goal is to hit that average and maybe even go below it, but we still have a margin of savings that we can strive for. And you can see that the Ticket Health solution average is well under the national and Midwest regional averages there. Any questions on where we're hoping to go? I'm hoping to be in the green.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Really quick on dental. We changed to Delta. We are still fully insured for dental, so we don't fund our own claims for dental. We switched to Delta as of 2023. And with that change, we were guaranteed a rate lock for the first 2 years. So we will not have any changes in premiums for 2024, and we are not proposing to make any changes to the plans.
Okay.
And on a positive note, we've also heard a lot more positive feedback on the Delta member experience compared to our previous provider. It's been going more smoothly. Any questions on dental? It's kind of a no-brainer for this year, but we'll see what we get back for a renewal for next year. All right, so happy to answer any other questions that you have. Otherwise, would request that the committee make a recommendation to the in the form of a resolution to approve the 2024 health premium rate structure that will fund all of the changes that we just talked about.
And one final question for you, and this is in our budget? These
Correct.
numbers are already incorporated. Am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Any one care to make that motion?
I'll make that motion to accept the, let me see, provider change and the new dental provider change and Ticket Health, is that? And Ticket being our ticket to savings. I don't know, but at this particular time, and then move this to executive committee or directly to the full board.
If you
We approve, we approve.
if you approve to forward a recommendation to the board in the form of a resolution, the executive committee would review it at their next meeting, and then the board will make the final approval of the resolution at the October meeting.
Yeah.
And
They-
then
they-
overall budget approval in November.
Right, they could amend it. But the basis of the resolution is what we're proposing.
So moved.
I'll second.
Second, all right. Any questions? Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes. Jenna, thank you. Thank you very much.
That's a
Very
lot
good
of work.
presentation.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Go back to our agenda. A resolution amending a shift differential pay in the highway department. Again, this was something proposed by Jenna. If you want to fill us in on that, I appreciate it. And again, there's a resolution. We could amend or change, otherwise there is a resolution printed. Go ahead.
All right. I don't have a PowerPoint for this one, so if you were looking forward to that, sorry to disappoint. But you will see it's written in the report that in summer of this year, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation had notified the county highway departments that all planned work to be performed on state mandated service routes like Interstate 94 needed to begin being performed only during the hours of 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And this comes as a result of measured traffic volumes during the day versus the night. And the DOT felt that it was more safe and less disruptive for any work to be performed during nighttime hours. So this prompted a review of our current shift differential pay, which you can see I've included a marked up version of our policy for that. It currently pays 40 cents per hour to highway employees that work between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. With this change from the DOT, we are requesting an increase to this from 40 cents per hour to $5 per hour. And that's specific to the work that will be performed on the state mandated service routes that is planned. So this would not include, plowing or things like that. This is truly that state mandated work on primarily Interstate 94. This actually wouldn't be an additional cost to the county specifically because the full amount of that will be billed to the Wisconsin DOT. And this proposed increase is consistent with other counties nearby, specifically St. Croix County that also performs work on 94. And we feel it's important to take a look at this rate in an effort to retain our highway staff that will need to be working during the night more often than they had in the past. Any questions on that piece specifically?
Supervisor Little.
Yeah, quick question regarding, so we're currently the shift differential for evening work on the interstate is 40 cents an hour, and we're moving this to $5 an hour, even though it won't impact us budget-wise. That's just something that the state is requiring us to do. Okay, I'm clear there. Besides I-94, what other main passageway spots would this apply to?
This wouldn't apply to anything outside of I-94. If
Okay.
employees are called into work to plow county roads, that is subject to a different provision that we won't be discussing today, but it is within that policy that's in your packet. But that would be applicable to call-in pay. So they do still receive additional pay if they're called into work in the middle of the night and plow roads. It just doesn't apply to this $5 per hour
So in other words, if
recommendation.
on a hot day, interstate blows up and it needs to be repaired, that's where the shift differential would come in, on a July hot night.
If they can wait to repair that between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. But I don't know how urgent that becomes, but maybe they put cones and close the lane off or something and then work on it during the nighttime. I couldn't get into the
Okay.
logistics of that, but it would be planned service on state mandated service routes.
And the state will pay?
And the state is billed for actually all work performed on Interstate 94.
Okay. All right, well, that clears it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
Dawn?
so, oh,
Except-
Oh, I'm sorry.
Except
Supervisor
for the,
Bauer.
night watchman or the watch person, that's 250, which we cover half of that, right?
yes, so the the highway maintenance manual that is maintained by the DOT, I've learned a lot in this process, allows counties to appoint what's called a night watch person. And this position is responsible for monitoring, I had to check the name of the system. The Wisconsin Road Weather Information System during night hours. So watching that for any new reports that come in and having the ability to notify the patrol superintendent if there's some sort of weather event where he needs to dispatch plows or things of that nature. So the DOT has stated that they would pay 50% of a night differential to this night watch person. And here at Dunn County, we would expect that person to work between the hours of 6 p.m. and 4 a.m. And currently, all they would receive is that 40 cents per hour if they took on that assignment. So we are proposing to increase that to $2.50. $1.25 would be billed to per hour would be billed to the state, and then the county would pay the other half. And this is in an effort to partially incentivize someone to want to take on that assignment, if you can imagine, just because it is pretty tough hours. So, and this is only between the months of November and March. So with this increase, it is anticipated to cost about $1,768 for a full year.
Gotta do it. All right. Okay. And now is that all that's in the resolution?
Just those two
Just those
pieces,
two
I
pieces,
promise,
right?
for now.
Okay. So, and Jenna's also included the language for that, or Nick has the language in the handbook. Well, that's why you're seeing some of the pages there and things in red and black.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
That notes the changes that are being made in the
So-
verbiage. And then there's a resolution that incorporates that document.
Yeah, because we have to change the handbook to reflect this.
And because it involves compensation, it has to be approved by the county board, not just the committee.
So we'd be moving this, recommending to move the resolution itself onto the board for their consideration. Correct? You
Yes.
want to make that motion?
I'll make
Supervisor
that
Lino would
motion.
Wish to make that motion. And Supervisor Bauer would wish to second it. Any questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have a contingency request from the district attorney's office. There's background information again in your folder as to the fact that this was going to be part of, or was included as part of next year's budget requests. But it seems that it's more urgent certainly than waiting until next year. And we're going to get explanation or questions that are going to be referred to our IT director, who is here
Yes,
in a fill-in role.
yes. I'm playing the role of the district attorney, who I believe is in court right now. So,
Okay.
so yeah, the request did come through the district attorney's office. They are the department that is going to be, say, the primary beneficiary of it. Is something that IT have been a part of. Frankly, it was a request within the first month of me starting as I met with different department heads. So it's been a long time in the work to try and get this going, but it's been a struggle throughout. And the struggle is not just with the district attorney's office, the sheriff's department, Menominee PD also are greatly feeling the effects of how do we get this information to the district attorney. So the short version of it is that as 10, 15 years ago, as something would happen, the law enforcement agency would provide a written report to the district attorney, who would take this, 1 or 2 page document and put it in a folder, and that's what they would store as the evidence that came in. We now are bringing along hundreds of gigabytes of video data for every single incident that has ever happened. So the district attorney's office needs a way to be able to gather that information and to store it and preserve it based on the retention policies that they have. So the other piece is it isn't necessarily very easy to transfer gigabytes of data from one place to another. And then once the DA receives it, they're required to provide that to the defense attorneys or to the defendants as part of discovery. And so then it's a process of the sheriff's department receives this data. They have to put it on a DVD. They walk it up to the district attorney's office, who has to create more DVDs to be able to do that. So this is a solution that will allow all of the law enforcement agencies, and that actually includes the state, so or neighboring counties, whoever it is that is bringing evidence to our district attorney's office, to easily provide that digital evidence, store it, and retain it within there without having to buy DVDs, download videos, and take upwards of an hour or 2 hours per incident to be able to do this. It should just be the click of a button. Transfer of data will take time, but that isn't something that will require a person to sit and monitor. So, and like I said, this is something that we were kind of planning on. We've been knowing it, but it is growing and growing in need as their DVD inventory is going down, and I think just frustration points were growing to the point of we just need to do this so that we can get our new processes in place.
And so then the $30,000 is what we were gonna spend in a sense next year, and we're gonna spend it now. Is that
So
to implement the process?
this is really just to speed it up. That is going to be an operational cost going forward. I expect it to go up. It's storing data, and that is just going to continue to compound over time. Typical retention for some things are from the district attorney's standpoint, retention is going to be based typically on the end of someone's sentence. So if you think of that, so, for a lot of the things that we have, it's a 7 years after the incident point. And this is 7 years after they get out of jail. So if you put somebody in jail for 10 years, you're saving this thing for 17 years, all of that information. So it does compound over time. But the other side of that is some of the other cases have a shorter, like maybe a 1-year retention. So you do see those kind of just replacing each other. So it's expected to grow, but frankly, the cost of buying the hardware and the computers and the compact discs, well, these DVDs, they all look like a disc, but that's what's being purchased right now. So it isn't a cost that wasn't already there. But
Question?
I have a quick question. We already have our data storage in the cloud now as a county, correct?
we own cloud storage. I wouldn't say that that's where all of our, a small minority actually of our storage is in the cloud right now.
Well, then it's not in file cabinets, I know.
It's the majority of our shared drives and things like that are stored on premises hard drive or computers.
So this would be another
This,
hard drive that we would have specifically for this?
this is actually cloud storage, so it will be in the cloud, but
Well, I'm
it is
just-
a
I'm-
separate thing, yes.
You know, since we have cloud storage already, can't we just add to this, or is that what we're gonna do?
So it's a specific solution that is built for receiving, sharing, and retaining digital evidence in a law enforcement for law
Okay, so
enforcement, so.
there's like a secure, because it is district attorney and law enforcement, it has to be more secured than what we have at this time? Or I'm just,
Yeah, we don't have an equivalent type of, so it isn't like there's a hard drive, you just kind of put it on a hard drive to be able to do that. You could,
yeah,
but then it's being able to find that, being able to delete it when it needs to be deleted, and to be able to gather all of the specific pieces of evidence that are related to a specific case aren't necessarily designed in that particular way. And we don't have the type of on-premises storage to be able to
okay. So
to
we
handle
won't-
that load.
We won't necessarily have, the $30,000 isn't buying a hard drive. It's just buying space in the cloud someplace that's more secure than what we would normally have.
Yeah, so the location that this is stored is compliant with the Criminal Justice Information System
okay, so-
standards. But it is a subscription service. We actually pay for a certain number of, we pay based on the number of law enforcement agents in our county that serve serve the district attorney's office, where they come up with the number to be able to do that. We don't necessarily buy 4 hard drives or 5 hard drives. We pay a subscription based on the
Okay,
size
so
of what we
depending
have.
on the data you use, will be charged for whatever that data. And initially now we're saying that cost for that data space
Mhm.
and security is $30,000.
Right.
And, okay, so let's say that we have 100 cases in that data storage.
Mhm.
If over time with camera, body cameras and stuff like that, that jumps to 10,000, we're gonna be looking at a $300,000 cost?
I wouldn't go that high, but you're going to see an increase in cost. Yeah. So, and I would kind of spin that around. If you were to do something like that on premises, we would have to buy, we typically buy computer hardware based on a 5-year life cycle. So if I were to buy storage to be able to store all of the DA's data right now, I would buy a system that would have the capacity to store all of the data that they need 5 years from now. And in year 1, we would use maybe a fifth of it. And then we would go, so you end up wasting a lot over those early years because you haven't filled up that full capacity of those drives. Then when you replace that after 5 years, so as we move into year 6, now we're projecting out to 10 years. So how much storage are we need 10 years? So when you do buy storage on premises, you overbuy. You have to overbuy so that you can build into that over time. That's the true value of cloud storage, is you pay for what you need.
Use.
Yeah.
That's what- okay.
And you, essentially the provider is kind of taking that risk and in having the storage and being more dynamic to add storage as necessary.
Is there any way we can compress this?
It is compressed. It is compressed. And I mean, quite frankly, I mean, this is some of the cost of digital evidence. I think maybe one of the unknowns as you talk about body worn cameras and the growth of those over time is how hard is it to put this on? So it's not that hard to put on it, but you got to store it, you have to retain it, you have to do
Okay,
that, and you actually have to preserve it I should say, actually, you have to preserve it because this is evidence, right? That could lead to overturning of a case if not properly cared for. So
Question to Sarah. Is there a grant for this?
we've worked on those, and I I think you can come up here. I know there was some grants related to this in the last year, The governor had a grant related to that, and I believe we might have bought some actual cameras with it. But I would also argue that this is going to be an ongoing cost. It's not going away unless a determination is made that we're not going to wear cameras. So
Okay.
we could maybe get it granted for a year or two, but the cost isn't going away.
We actually had a COVID era grant that actually was designed for the cloud-based storage, but we couldn't get an agreement between our law enforcement agencies and the DA's office on what system, because they're on different systems, have different preferences on how they want to share information. So we end up using that grant money and buying tons of those disks and all these, physical things to store the data. And that was a Band-Aid essentially.
To get us to this point.
Get us to this point. We haven't scanned out there if there is grants on the federal level. We would certainly keep our ear to the ground on the state level. But this is a challenge not only we're going through, but every jurisdiction really in the country that is moving to the body worn cameras. There's just immense amount of data that comes with that.
So this $30,000 will get us through this year or this budget cycle?
Well, it's 2023, so there would be a renewal essentially a year from now in 2024, and that's what would be, we would utilize the capital improvement funds that were budgeted in 2024, and
Okay.
the DA's office would then budget for that expense going forward in 2025.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yep, it's a big cost, and I think to Sarah's point, we're not alone. We're certainly not the first in the country, but in our area, our sheriff's department was one of the first to go to body worn cameras. So
Okay.
we started to see this, and Menominee PD. So we started to see this a lot sooner as we go talk to neighboring counties. How do you deal with that? Oh, it's not a problem. Well, what do you do with your body worn cameras? Well, we're rolling them out next month. So, and we're 3 years into it. So.
Okay.
So we're starting to see these problems, I think, before everybody does. So maybe holding out hope that there's some future money to be able to
Yeah.
support that as others start to experience more of the problems that we are.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the thoroughness here that you're offering.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it. So, at this point, there is, like I say, a request, and we are the committee who has a contingency fund. And so it's up to us to decide if we're going to take $30,000. We have more than $30,000 left in that fund. So I need a motion to award that $30,000 from the contingency fund to go into the general fund so it can be used to do this.
I make a motion that we go ahead and use that $30,000 from the contingency fund to get this rolling now as opposed to later.
Okay, seconded by Supervisor Wilsey. Any questions? All in favor? Aye? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We will reward that money will be transferred. All right. Consideration of reports, resolutions, ordinances to the county board from this committee. The 2023 budget adjustment, again, CJC championed another $5,000 to be used for one of their programs. Any questions? Do you want to ask of Sarah? Otherwise, motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Okay, motion to approve. Oh, please. Please, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Found the grant money already. Boy, that girl's amazing.
Whiz at that computer.
I have a recommended change to this resolution. Our finance manager advised that would probably be better to put it in a CJCC grant account that they can create so we can really keep these funds separate and moving forward. So it's really just changing the account numbers that I have listed from the levy to a new grant that finance would create in SAP.
All right.
Supervisor Bauer. Okay. Motion to send this forward
With the changes that,
with the changes,
that Sarah just
the
outlined.
amendments made by Sarah.
Yeah.
Count number changes. Okay, thank you. All right, second? Oh, so Mr. Wilsey, seconds?
Yeah.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Sarah. All right. Ordinance revision 7.6.06 of the Code of Ordinances regarding marriage license fees, and we have a report by our county clerk, Mr. Andrew,
Yeah.
is going to take care of us here.
So in the ongoing desire to clean things up, we're looking at updating the ordinance 7.6.06 of our county court of ordinances because as of 2016, as of July 1st, 2016, domestic partnerships are no longer recognized in the state of Wisconsin. So we're cleaning up some language there. And then last year, starting on July 1st of last year, there was the opportunity for an individual to get a marriage license in any county in the state of Wisconsin, not the county in which they reside. So in an effort, the county clerks have all tried to say, let's do some standardized pricing for our marriage licenses so that Eau Claire is not undercutting Dunn County and we're losing out on the marriage license revenue. Currently, the marriage licenses are $90 in Dunn County. 25 of that goes to the state, 45 of that goes to the county clerk's office, and 20 of it actually goes over to Katie Shalley as a built-in, you're probably going to get divorced, so here's a little money for the court system. I'm sure Nick would correct me and there's like technical reasons for that, but that's what I call it. I call it the built-in divorce fee. So anyway, what we're looking to do in this ordinance, you'll see that the number looks kind of funny. What we're trying to say is right now, Dunn County, the fee is $40.50 more than the state minimum to bring it up to a $90 fee. We're saying we're going to make that $50.50, so it's a $100 fee. Pretty much all the counties around us are trying to go to a flat $100 marriage license fee, with the exception of Dane County and Milwaukee County. But pretty much everyone else is trying to stay at $100 so that we're not undercutting each other. So it's just kind of a cleanup in some language and bringing in some additional revenue. In my budget proposal for 2024, adding a part-time administrative clerk, this would kind of help offset some of the costs from some of the additional revenue that would come from that as well. So that's what that is. Any questions? Uh-oh.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I
Next,
just want to
please.
say I know what Andrew meant. Domestic partnerships that were approved
Yes.
under Wisconsin law are recognized. However, the legislature cut off the ability to continue having those registered. And so I think we looked and there were
25.
20 there. So Dunn County, there were actually 25 applications for domestic partnerships in Dunn County, and under state law, if they want to terminate a domestic partnership, they have to do it in the county that it was originally registered. So that's the reason there are still fees available, or still fees included in there, because the domestic partnership termination is still potentially something that could come up here. I just wanted to clarify that that's why only the registering of it is being eliminated and not the ending of it. We had 25 domestic partnerships during the 2 or 3 years that those were recognized under state law as something that could be done.
And so we do have 25 current active domestic partnerships. There were 28 filed total, but there have been 3 terminations of those. So if any of those residual 25 wanted to terminate their domestic partnerships, we'd happily take their money to do so. The other thing is that it just, there's also was a change last year in section B, where there used to be a 5-day waiting period to get a marriage license. The legislature changed that last year to say there's a 3-day waiting period now. And then actually Senate Bill 288, which is currently sitting with the state Senate. There's currently a 6-month waiting period after a judgment of a divorce is granted. The Senate Bill 288 is aiming to eliminate that. So if you wanted to get divorced on January 1st, you could get married on January 1st, as long as it was signed off. We're obviously tracking that because that would obviously impact our abilities in which to have to track whether people have been divorced at that 6-month mark or not. I have had 2 people, one who was not divorced for 6 months, that we had to say, you have to postpone for 3 more months until you've met that 6-month waiting period. And I did have another couple that came in 2 days before their 6-month date. So I'm like, come back, see you on Wednesday. But it is something that we're watching. So just wanted to see that as well. Any other questions? It was zippy. Yep.
All right,
All right. Thank you.
thank you. We have a motion to make the current 7.6.06 section of the Code of Ordinances to be amended as printed in your page here and.
So moved.
So moved. Second to that.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now this, just one question for Nick. This is an ordinance change, so does this have 2 readings at the board?
It will, yes.
Thank you.
Unless a member
We
would
could.
move to waive the requirement for a second reading. But otherwise, yeah, presumptively 2 readings.
Any other questions? All right. Okay. We are down to item 8, and that is the next meeting date for this committee. Right now it's set for October 6th, 2023.
26.
Oh, I'm sorry, 26. It's right there in front of me. Shall I read that again? It is set for October 26th of 2023, 3 o'clock in this room. Without any other special announcements? None? We are adjourned. Thank you all. Appreciate the work that we got done.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Mr. Wilson. The new guy.
The new guy.